name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Okay, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, and the champions of talk. This morning, we have talk champion Dr. Mya Bowen in the house. Dr. Bowen, how are you doing? Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Since I'm not physically at the beach, I thought I'd bring the beach with me on this beautiful Wednesday morning.
I see it's windy out there. Windy out there. It's blowing,
yes, huh? Absolutely. Palm tree in the back and the waves coming in and out. Absolutely. It's a great day.
Sea breeze. Sea breeze.
Absolutely.
All right. Like the folks that send pictures of themselves, call in sick and then got pictures of themselves poolside by the beach. Posted on their social media.
Absolutely. When it is that you could go virtual, this paradigm shift is interesting because you could be anywhere at any time and still attend a meeting. And so it's a little complicated when it is that you have students that are either Ubering or in a restaurant placing order, and they still have the hot mic going, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? As a matter of fact, I actually had a student, we were in final exams, and he's walking to his house to actually go and log on. I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't get the time frame? Oh my goodness. I was like, yep, this is the day and age where folks can be anywhere at any time and still attend a meeting and even rush to get back home to start their final exam.
Well, with the new paradigm shift, as you mentioned, you can actually, and I think it's almost socially acceptable or corporate or workplace acceptable, for you to be literally on the beach in a meeting,
yes,
as long as you are in the meeting and contributing. It really doesn't matter where you are now, because you can attend remotely. So there's nobody hating on you because you're sitting on the beach doing your work, which is at the end of the day, a pretty cool thing.
True. But if you could add that background filter and provide a more or less a less hater mode type visualization, then that's even better, because you don't need everybody in your business about where your whereabouts are. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. I know that one of the things that is really a little disheartening is the fact that the tendency to get easily distracted, or even to just have your video camera off, allows for you to actually not be in the moment in terms of the meeting or class. So that's one of the things we just cannot control.
Well, that's interesting. You could always, I guess, make it mandatory that your face be seen. Turn your camera on, turn on your camera. I guess,
You can, but how do you enforce that? So it goes back to accountability, right? So some devices do not have cameras, or they may have a device that doesn't have a functioning camera. So then at that point, what do? You can't really mandate it if it is that the technology is not available for you to actually have it available. So I'm flexible with that.
I could see that. I could see that. I guess there's certain like for school, if the person attending is opting in, but I think for work you could make it mandatory, part of as a condition of remote work environment.
Yes,
you
absolutely
must have camera on mode. Otherwise, you got to come into the office. If you can't be seen, put your face on the screen so we can see you.
Right.
So sometimes people don't talk. They just attend. You don't know whether they're there or not. They get their face up. And they could be asleep. They don't even need to be they don't even need to be there.
Listen, there's so many types of workarounds with those scenarios going on that again, the sky's beyond the limit. But I know that for me, sometimes you're not in the mood to be visible online, right? So you have to have the camera off. But if it becomes mandated, I guess you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Well, there are there's some things now. As we talk about these paradigm shifts, new workplace, things along that line, I try and tell people that a well-framed camera is the new $3,000 suit. The new $3,000 suit. I am amazed at the number of people who do one of these numbers. This is their face. This is their Zoom meeting look. Their head is way down at the bottom of the screen, and that's not a good look for That's just not a good look for your corporate appearance. If you happen to be an elected official attending a meeting,
right?
For some reason, people really think that this is cool because I see lots of people. They pay no attention to it. It's just they're on the screen, and so they have no sense of framing. So you want to make sure you're framed well, like this. The other one is head, center screen. But this, you want to look good like you're on a TV show. Absolutely. Since you can't go into the office, you got to look like a movie star.
Absolutely. The Hollywood Squares mode is where we find ourselves more
nice.
often
I like
than not
that.
nowadays.
I like that. I like that. The Hollywood Squares mode.
And so it's interesting. Again, with that whole framing, and it's like, do you let people know that you're out of frame? Do you not let them know? Another thing that I find is that individuals do not come with the proper attire on. So I've seen quite a few things that I wish I hadn't seen, because once you see, you can't get it. You can't get that out. Yeah, you can't unsee that. And so I'm like, why are you laying in bed? If we were in class right now, technically you'd be sitting up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand if you just have like a nice shirt on. I don't see your bottoms. I don't care about your bottoms, right? Just have a nice shirt on. Don't be slouching, leaning in bed. I mean, the thing that gets me is that, are they going to interview like that potentially going forward? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's called netiquette, right?
Netiquette. I like that. Is that a real term or something that you've invented? Netiquette, like an etiquette. Netiquette.
Yes, netiquette. It's out there. Did a Google search on it, trying to make sure that my students for this semester actually knew what it's all about and how it is that we would proceed in following those basic rules in terms of engagement. And so it's pretty much, making sure that your appearance is good, making sure that your communication is suitable, respecting others as they speak in the classroom, and so on and so forth. So there's a dynamic out there called netiquette, and because of this paradigm shift, it's absolutely needed. And it's like, you have to pass that information on to students and other individuals who are going to partake in the Hollywood Square mode, from the perspective that it's not a known, or it's not common sense, which common sense really doesn't exist, because everybody's knowledge is different and varied.
And they say common sense is not common.
Absolutely. It's not common. Like, literally, like I remember when I was young, and certain things that I did, my mom was like, you need to use your common sense. I was like, all right. I thought I did the best I could in that situation, but obviously common sense was missing during that time. All right. And then, as I proceeded to get older, by the grace of God, I started learning that common sense is really not common, because every individual that you meet, what you know to be common is not something that they know to be common. And so that dismisses that little phrase there. In terms of common sense being something that we use. But common sense is not common when it is that you have so many individuals that have been exposed to a variety of things in their own life's journey.
Well, that brings us to kind of like, in a very grand and roundabout way, to some of the things that are happening, across the country as people get more and more segmented and fragmented. The common or community standards change. Once upon a time, communities were pretty tight knit. They were pretty small. There were acceptable norms in the community. So there's certain things you did, certain things you didn't do. I think you still have that, like in corporate America and in most workplaces. There are workplace rules, unwritten and written, and the more you're there, you kind of understand that. But as communities change so rapidly, with so many people moving in and out of communities, what the overarching grand social acceptable mode of behavior is gone. It's like, what do you expect from X person? So like, what are our expectations in other people's behavior? So I think when folks say, well, use some common sense, well, that's based on the person making the statement.
Right.
It's like, well, I think that this is common and you should know and act that way, but why should they? What do they know about what your expectations are? So it might be better if we set certain expectations. And
we need to, like in the Jewish community, there's certain expectations and standards that they have set and established and passed down from generation to generation. Now, if you look at what it is that you just eloquently explained with the coming and goings of individuals in and out of specific neighborhoods, which are not really communities. You don't know who your neighbor is. As simple as that, because of different types of transitioning happening. And so if it is that we set standards and expectations and made sure that individuals adhered to them, and then did what you bring up from time to time, community policing, then that would allow for us to have some sort of level playing field in terms of the understanding amongst members of the neighborhood that will eventually turn into community. I think our first start needs to be the defining of community, because the shift has actually occurred, whereby now that there's so many different individuals that play a part of neighborhoods, how does the neighborhood define community and then act it out in a practical way so standards and expectations are known by all members?
So then what is a community? I guess we need to figure like what constitutes a community?
Yeah, I mean, to me, just based off of multiple definitions that I've seen, and they're pretty similar, it's members of a group that share standards and expectations.
Members of a group that share standards and expectations. So, I like that. That's nice. That's nice. That means, so then people have to really get to know, do you know your neighbor?
No.
There could be like we should have a know your neighbor day.
We should.
know your
They've got
neighbor day.
coffee
Take
days. They
take
got all
this.
kind of days.
All right, take this
Know
day
your
and go
neighbor
out
day.
and knock on your neighbor's door.
Ah,
You know.
you know that could possibly work. However, some folks ain't neighborly.
Then you'd get to know that. It's good
That's
to know
true.
the ones that aren't neighborly. Stay off of Mr. Kent's lawn.
Right. This is true. You're right. You're right about that. You're right about that. I mean, it's interesting. Only when it is that you have a conversation with someone do you kind of get a glimpse into their mindset. Are they all there, halfway there, or not there at all? Right. So you have to really pay attention to what people say as well as what they do. But really and truly, you get a glimpse into how they think when it is that you have a conversation with them. Because if you ask them what time it is and they tell you that the sky is blue, well, that's a whole nother story.
Few watts short on that bulb there, buddy, huh?
Yes, definitely. Operating at 15 watts instead of the full 75. I see you.
Turn the power up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So your summer's going good?
So far, so good. As a matter of fact, just less than 2 weeks away for my birthday. I actually celebrated a birthday with the late President Nelson Mandela, which is on the 18th, and so I'm excited about that. I'm hopefully going to plan something out of town. Probably go to a real beach where I can stick my toes in some real sand and be all good.
Mm-hmm. So are you one of those people who celebrate their birthday? Or are you kind of like a down, kind of low key?
I'm low key. I'm chill. Like literally the party aspects of my life are really, they've been quelched. Been there, done that. I'm not big on huge parties, and nowadays, just to transition just a little bit, going to parties where individuals may be targeted by other individuals and gun violence actually ensues is not something I want to be a part of. I'm sorry. I just, I have to pick and choose where it is that I go and how many people are there, where are the exits, and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm not the one for that. But it's all good. Low key is what I do, and it's very groovy, very very groovy.
Wow. You brought something up. Being aware, you said, knowing where the exits. I remember the very first time I went out somewhere. I was 19, and JT. People actually may know him. He's in the area. I don't know if he's actually around still. He may still be here in the Windsor area. Joseph Chandler. And I remember they took me to New York. I was 19 at the time. I just moved up here, really, and it was working at Pratt & Whitney. Ernie Hudson and Joseph Chandler, JT, and they called me the little fella, little fella, and we went to New York, and so Joe says, now we're gonna go in the club. This is probably your first time being in a club. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I tell my wife. This is where I will meet you if something happens. Right here at this door. Find out where the exits are. Know where you're at. Keep your wits about you, and you'll be fine. But if anything goes wrong, fire, gun, knife, this, that, the third, I will see you outside this door. I'm not looking for you.
Right.
So, But I think people really need to have a sense of situational awareness. You can't just be walking around with your earbuds in and just floating through life willy-nilly. You really need to have some situational awareness. With cars driving recklessly as they are.
Yes.
With people on edge, with tensions high. People are are walking around with high levels of stress. That they're waiting for what they perceive as just provocation to punch you in your face. You know, if you step on somebody's shoes, you say the wrong thing.
I call them human volcanoes.
Between
human volcanoes.
Yeah.
Really?
Ready to explode.
Yes. And so just as the dormancy of, let's say, a Mount Vesuvius, it's those underlying elements within the internal things that are going on that we cannot see, but literally when it is that they explode or erupt like a volcano, sometimes or most times what ends up happening is that the individual that they erupt upon is not the real cause. It's all those other things that they've held in for such a long time that if you say the wrong thing or look at them the wrong way, you could be the target of their eruption, unbeknownst to you. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting and delicate situation that we find ourselves in when it is that we actually, navigate the world today, because individuals, like you stated, are distracted. They're emotional or highly emotional, where, what I've been reading about emotional intelligence, individuals really need to be taught and made aware of how to self-regulate themselves in terms of their emotions, so that when presented with a circumstance or individuals that may push a button or two, they know how to best not take a short-term encounter and turn it into long-term consequences.
Conflict transformation. Mm-hmm. Resolution.
Yeah.
It seems as though it's in all sectors. Doesn't matter really where it is. That the potential for people to pop off and explode is very high. The old adage of treating others as you would like to be treated would be a real good place to start. If everybody just kind of treat people with decency and respect, and and you don't even have to like or get along with someone to be kind to them,
right?
And it's most certainly better to walk away.
Definitely.
Than to engage.
Definitely. Yeah. So, a lot of times, if it is that you get into one of those highly volatile situations where your ego takes over, a short-term situation turns into long-term consequences. And so, it would be interesting if the curriculum included dynamics of self-discipline on a variety of levels. You could have so many different topics related to it, from emotional intelligence to respect of self and others, and the list goes on and on. Conflict resolution, understanding what long-term consequences could look like if it is that one proceeds in certain actions and stating certain things. Because one thing that I started really taking heart to is that once it is that you say something to someone, you can never get it back. And as ugly as the words are, it's interesting. You could be 99.9% great to that person, but you say that one ugly thing and they will hold on to that like a chew toy that a puppy has just gotten a hold to, they will not release. It's like, wow, I said that one thing and that's the one thing that sticks with you. And yet and still, I've done all this awesome and amazing things, and just that one ugly thing is the thing that they will hold on to forever.
That is absolutely true. It that one thing is all it takes to erase everything else from the past. It's Morning Talk, Stick and Stay, my friends. We'll take a short break, and then we will be right back.
Awesome.
IHAP, HPU, IHAP Families de Universidade de Harvard, Community. Estou muito feliz em participar. É muito importante engajamento dos padres e madres nas escolas de Hartford com seus ninhos, my children. I love helping family e HPU. Thank you. Gracias. Obrigado.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind. Talk. Ralph the Squirrel still on point, gathering information from around the city. Our network mascot is a squirrel. And there he is. That's Ralph on post. He's sitting in front of John Larson's office downtown. Welcome back, folks.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We've got Dr. Mya Bowen here with us. It is Morning Talk. We're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 7 days a week. 8 o'clock. Tune in. There's always something happening and always something popping.
Pop. Like popcorn. Like popcorn is popping. Interestingly enough, I'm a collector of books. I haven't read all the books that I actually have. However, I did pick up a few books on last week from Ollie's Bargain Outlet. And I started, perusing their aisles, and I saw something that actually stuck out to me in regards to how I think about my students transitioning into their careers and getting internships. And so I picked out this book. It's called The Big Book of How to Say It Job Search, which includes the complete text of How to Say It on Your Resume by Brad Karsh with Courtney Pike, and How to Say It Job Interviews by Linda Mateus. And so with that being said, there's this website called Handshake. And if you are a student at a college and have been issued a college email, then you can actually sign up and get leads into internships as well as careers as it is that you transition into your respective careers. And so that's something that is um, uh, of interest to me in terms of sharing this type of information with my students so that they can actually go forth and be the best at interviewing for the position that they're seeking.
Mm-hmm. Interviews these days. I was listening to something on the radio. What is this? It wasn't LinkedIn. It's another popular job search engine.
And there's many of them out there.
It's one of the bigger ones.
One of the bigger ones. LinkedIn. I would have to do a Google search. I'm doing a brain freeze right now, but yeah, there's so many different options out there that when I talk to my students, I try to relate to them from the perspective that they have to see themselves in the position and what it would actually entail. And so it's good for them to identify where their passion lies, because each one of them will have their respective goals. The question then becomes, have they actually sat down and thought about it? And most times that's a no. So for example, I gave my students the opportunity to complete 3 chapters related to some practice questions in labs.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that when I looked at my grade book, individuals had not accomplished that task when we met on yesterday evening. And so I had to do some housekeeping and get individuals' input on what it is that were some challenges that didn't allow for them to meet that deadline. And that right there is the big kicker. Individuals not meeting deadlines, even as students, has become one of the major things that from semester to semester I see as again a challenge to them. I'm like, wow, I know that when I was a student I was on point, because I did not want to have this looming zero based on me not applying myself in terms of what was required and what was due for a particular class.
Meeting deadlines. It was Indeed that I was thinking about.
Yes.
Indeed. I was listening to radio the other day. Well, actually, it was yesterday. And I guess now you can have it was more toward the employer using Indeed, and now you can do the interviews right on the Indeed portal. And I thought that was interesting because they're obviously trying to compete or keep people on the site, but compete with Zoom, because Zoom was in the right place at the right time for all things. But that got back to our first half hour with how you present yourself. Are in your preparation? Is it more to prepare them for in-person interviewing, or either or?
I let them know in this day and age, the pandemic has transitioned us into the virtual realm. And so it could go either way. So they need to be prepared for both. Because we've got multiple options in which interviews can actually be done. As a matter of fact, since they're preparing for a certification exam, or rather they actually are preparing for 2 certification exams through the course I'm teaching this summer, they can actually register to take the exam at home versus on site at a testing center. The at-home requirement is a little bit more strict because it is that they would be proctored via online, which will require for them to have met certain specifications where they don't have anything posted on the wall, the desk is clear. They have to be in a room that is enclosed where it has a door. Nobody or no animal, if they have pets, is to be entering or exiting. And so there are things that they have to meet in terms of specific criteria for at-home exam testing to be monitored through a proctor virtually. So that's one dynamic. And then you have your test center sites that would require for other types of criteria to be met. So with the job interview, I let them know that they should be prepared for either a virtual or on-site interview, and it's going to be dependent upon what it is that the employer is requesting. But the key is to be prepared.
Well, preparation meets opportunity.
Absolutely. Will Smith says that he's always prepared, so he never really has to get ready. So at whatever time that an opportunity presents itself, he's already ready. Right? So it's a mindset type of thing. I was telling somebody that we are inundated by weapons of mass distraction, and I got that from Chuck D.
Weapons of mass distraction.
Yes, and even I fall into the wormhole of being distracted from time to time. But when it comes down to taking care of business, I have to put those things out of sight, out of mind, in order to focus in on what it is that the task at hand presents itself to be. So not many individuals have that type of discipline. Another friend has told me that if it was that easy, then everyone would be able to accomplish it. So, for example, if it was easy to make $1 million, then everybody would be doing that. However, it comes with some sacrifice and a lot of discipline in order to get to that point. And the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Right? So
I like that.
It's
Yeah.
the journey. I tell you, it's the journey.
You got to put in the hard work.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. And not all the time it's hard, but there's a certain dynamic about work that comes with what it is that you're engaging with. It's not necessarily hard all the time. It could be tedious, which makes it challenging to stay on task. Because I know that as an intern, one time I just got this simple task. If you're copying or filing, stuff, your mind can get lost in the sauce, so to speak, because it's not like it's challenging you. Especially, it's a simple task, but it's tedious, and you got tons of it that you have to do within an 8-hour shift. And it's like, really? Can you guys come up with something more challenging and career related? Because I don't plan on filing and copying in my career. As a matter of fact, those are two things that I despise the most. Keeping track of all that paperwork. Hence, I need a personal assistant. So, some things you're good at and willing to do, and other things, you may not be so prone to be an eager beaver about. But that's all about knowing oneself and how it is that you work best in certain environments and on certain types of tasks. And so a lot of, the journey in life I'm finding is that we have to become more acquainted with knowing ourselves, our likes, dislikes, and everything in between.
Well, that is one of the keys to success, is knowing what you are not good at, as well as knowing what you are good at, but more importantly, what you're not good at.
It's important. The workshop that I had a couple of weeks ago, where I was in a leadership academy, pointed out several things in terms of me taking some some assessments on leadership and leadership styles, and it just, it was actually on cue, because when it is you go about answering the questions and what they give you back in terms of what they assess, you start diving into it and like, yes, that is me. This is how it is that I contribute to a team, and how I engage with other individuals, and trying to now then shift it to looking at how individuals engage with me allows for me to pinpoint some things in terms of the concepts that they use. Because if it is that you are energetic and another person is not so energetic, you're on two different wavelengths, and so how do you best get them engaged in doing a project or task that you all have to work together on is going to be something that sparks creativity, and then even more so putting in that conscientious effort to get them involved in the process, because sometimes you got to work with all types, and there are all types that are working the earth, which makes the diversity of us all so very beautiful and unique, and hopefully embraced. Unfortunately, some individuals just can't embrace the uniqueness of other individuals in terms of just tolerating them. But needless to say, we are all here for a purpose, on purpose, and essentially we can't do this alone. So no person is on an island to themselves, except for the fact that I'm using a background whereby I'm the only one on this particular island.
All right. Well, we'll take a short break. We'll be back. We'll be joined by Big Lou when we get back here. It's Morning Talk. Stick and stay, my friends. We're just getting started. Dr. Mya Bowen will be here. Luis Delgado will be here. And so will you. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
I'm a parent to a student in Hartford High, and I would say the program was very good. It taught us a lot about how to deal with our kids, how to handle situations. So I would say it's good for all parents to partake if you can. And our coach was very good. She taught us a lot about the Parents University. So I'm so happy and I'm glad I took part in the Parents University. So thank you so much. Love you. My name is Nuwalki Tete. Bye.
All right, my friends, welcome back. It's Morning Talk. I'm your host, J. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. Today, we've got two of them. We've got Dr. Mya Bowen, and now being joined by none other than the one and only Luis Delgado. Good morning, Brother Luis. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Stan. Good morning, Dr. Mya, and good morning to our listeners and our viewers. Dr. Mya, during the break, I was saying to Stan that's a quote that's attributed to Ernest Hemingway. No man is an island.
Yeah.
And your background kind of lends itself to that a little bit. You know, he was always on an island somewhere.
Yeah. It's peaceful, but what it also proves is that we still need each other to get things accomplished. And so, you know, life teaches us many things. So essentially, from my perspective, we're never outside of a classroom. The world is our classroom.
Absolutely, as well said. And I think there's a quote that I read this week that I was very impressed by, and it says, "We're not part of nature; we are nature."
That's an interesting quote. I like that. We are nature. We are one with all things. As all things, there's one with us.
And I think that it goes along with everything that I think Dr. Mya's message is about working together and understanding that just like we're trying to separate ourselves from nature, we try to separate ourselves from each other, you know, through race or gender or whatever. And it's always the wrong way to go. We always get more done when we work together. So I completely agree with you, Dr. Mya.
Absolutely.
United we stand, divided we fall. It's interesting because division has been the biggest thing that has caused a variety of conflicts. And individually, if it is that we actually looked at the value and self, as well as others, as well as providing for respect, you know, it really can be really simple in terms of how we engage with each other to get things accomplished, right? You don't have to be disrespectful. You choose to be disrespectful. You can choose to be disrespectful in general, right? But you can choose to be respectful as well when it is that you're engaging with other individuals. Now, the divisiveness of putting people into categories and things into categories and valuing power, money, and other things over humanity, that's where we get into a problem.
Yes. And it's kind of funny that you say that because I've been having meetings with young people this week, and we talked about what is considered the rugged individualism, the American rugged individualism, which, goes directly against the, indigenous beliefs of community. So yeah, it's interesting that we're having this conversation again.
Individualism. Yeah. We, as a community is not, an individual, it's a community. What about self-motivation? I mean, where is the line between individualism? Because self is the problem, and individualism is a form of self centered worldview, so to speak.
I think you can be an individual as long as you understand that you belong to a larger whole. You're not really, by yourself. Like Dr. Mya said, no man, and in this sentence, the word man means human, right? No human is an island. You can't do it. No matter how smart you are, you can't do it by yourself.
I've been watching this series. Have you ever watched Alone?
No,
it's on the history. It's originally a History Channel show. The prize is $500,000, and the person last man standing wins. But they take you out somewhere, and you are alone. You have to live off of the land. You have to survive alone. You have to build your shelter. You have very few things that they give you. And if you fall, now you can, as they say, tap out, so to speak. You can call and they'll come and get you, but
that would be me.
People that's tapping out. But it's the poster child of rugged individualism. And I'm almost at the end of the last season, and there are 2 women and 3 men. I think a guy's getting ready to tap out, but there's 2 women and 3 men. They started off with 10, and it's amazing what human beings can do. And the sense of finding, the one thing they all seem to talk about is the capacity and the sense of finding self when you are by, solace, and to be reflective, and to,
that's the best. They say that's, well, for me, they say, and I've experienced, when you meditate, when you spend time when you're doing something by yourself that you enjoy, it's immense. It's an immense feeling, because, but the other thing that I like to tell people, right, is that nothing in life is worth anything if you can't share it. Like if I have the best chocolate in the world, right, but nobody else knows about me, how is that the best chocolate in the world?
Well, it's the best chocolate as far as you're concerned.
Right, but I'm just saying that it's right along with what Dr. Mya is saying, right? I think that also sharing the best things in life are also an immense feeling. To share something with someone that they've never had or they've dreamed of, and now it's happening for them. Oh my goodness, that's it's an incredible feeling.
Absolutely.
I like to share. I get great joy out of giving and sharing.
Yes.
But that joy ends with food.
Stan.
I am admittedly, and everyone that knows me knows, I am very stingy when it comes to sharing food. I don't mind buying you
your
own food.
But you ain't getting none of mine.
I'm not sharing mine. It's mine. I believe there are some things that should be yours.
I believe I know what happened with you, Stan. Would you mind if I share with the audience?
Go ahead, Lou.
You probably didn't go to kindergarten.
I went to kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher's name was Mrs. Lumpkin. I remember.
Wow.
She's the one kindergarten I remember. I walked to school. To kindergarten.
Wow.
I did.
Where did you live at?
I lived in Philadelphia.
But it was in rural.
No, it was not in rural. It was in Mount Airy, Philadelphia, 7131 Lincoln Drive. I went to Henry H. Houston School.
How many people in that town?
In Philadelphia?
No, in that little town that you lived in.
There was a neighborhood. It's like West Hartford. No, I don't mean like West Hartford. It's like Blue Hills or Cheltenham, Germantown, Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill.
Yeah.
Is it close to Allentown?
No.
No. Okay, it's further. Okay.
Allentown is on the other side of Bucks County.
Okay.
Yeah. Allentown. No. It was. In fact, my dad went and got my bike because the Hill gang stole my bicycle.
Mm.
And he went, looked for it, found it, got out. I'll never forget it. Got out of the car, went up, got the bike, put it in the trunk, and left. So the Hill gang. Now this wasn't a gang-infested area, but I mean, it wasn't like some rural stick town, as Lou was trying to portray. No.
Stan, did you say that?
Now, my high school.
When we talk about Philadelphia, Stan.
My high school was a rural stick town, but not my elementary school.
Well, when you talk about Philadelphia, Stan,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about one of the country's, major cities.
It's the fourth largest city in the country at one time. I think it still is.
And also a very dangerous city.
No, there are parts of Philadelphia that are dangerous.
4-year-old Stan.
To walk to
walking to school, yeah.
The 60s
I'm
or
62.
70s, right?
You didn't walk to school?
I walked to school with a group of kids. And sometimes my mom and other moms would walk us.
We walked to school in
We
kindergarten.
lived in Charter Oak.
We had a
projects.
half day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the standard, even here in Hartford, per what my mom said. Now, did you say that your friend teacher was Miss Lumpkin?
Mrs. Lumpkin.
Oh, interesting, because that's my mom's maiden name, Lumpkin.
Did your mom work in the school system?
No, she didn't work in the school system. I'm just stating that because the last name is my mom's maiden name. Lumpkin is my mom's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
I remember chocolate milk.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
In the carton,
white
yep.
milk in the nasty wax cartons.
Yes.
The wax would come off and go in the milk.
See?
You know what? Wow.
Right. I remember galoshes.
Oh yeah.
And I remember Stroman bread. You put the little
about those
plastic
fools?
bags over your feet so that you could get the galoshes. Not over your feet, over your shoes. So you could get the galoshes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that they were ugly and all of the kids hated them. And as soon as you got out the house, you almost took them off.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't want that they were ugly. And, they were ugly. And they had the buckles. That I remembered. And I remember a coat room.
Yes.
I remember making trinkets for like Christmas time art. I remember, I don't know why, but I remember kindergarten. Like I remember kindergarten.
Wow.
That's the one class I remember. I could walk around that school. If the school is still standing, I could walk around I could see my classroom just as plain as day.
You know what's interesting about this, Stan? That something happened in that classroom because you don't have the recollection of all the other classes.
Well, I have not like that one, but I loved
Yeah, you
kindergarten.
were heavily influenced.
I love school.
You should try to think about what that teacher did or said to you that created that warmth, that welcome.
I can't go that deep. I was only like 4-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
4-ish, 5-ish. Yeah.
But look at how strong that is,
interesting.
Stan. Can you imagine how strong that is? That you can recollect. You've had things that happen in your life. You've had death. You've had, graduations, weddings, all kinds of things happen in your life that you cannot recollect as clearly as you can recollect that kindergarten class.
Well, I can recollect lots of things.
Yeah, but that one is interesting because you were 5, brother.
Yeah, well, 5 or 4. Yeah. I think I was, because I graduated at 17. I started early. Not because I was smart, but because my birthday fell at the right time. If your birthday was on a certain time, you started at 4
early,
as opposed to 5.
Yeah.
So, I had all kinds of allergies when I was small. So I did not do well in elementary school. And then in like the I missed a whole lot of the 2nd grade or the 3rd grade. And then my mom and dad took me out of school and I went to the community camp school of Philadelphia. Yeah, so that's another story.
So
For another
you
day.
didn't go to high school in Philly though,
No.
but
Just
you
to
went
take
to
a
high
little
school
journey.
in Pennsylvania.
S- in-
You went to high school in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, I went to Penridge Senior High School.
Okay.
Penridge Senior High School. Right.
That's interesting, man. Philadelphia is a great big city, man.
Philadelphia is a great city. In fact, at one point, the Philadelphia, I want to say the Society for Music. There's a Society for Music school. It was a little music school in Philadelphia, off of 4th Street, downtown, and the school, we rented like the third floor. Not me, but I mean the school rented the third floor, because it was out in Bucks County, community camp school. But something happened. I think they sold the camp or whatever. And so then we wound up being in Philadelphia proper, because one of the board members was also a board member of that school. And I guess that's how we got it. I remember my art teacher's name. I used to get on the train, go down to 30th Street Station, get on the subway, take the subway to 4th Street, get on the trolley, and take the trolley to, I can't remember the street that the school, Society Hill School for Music or something like that, and then go in the building with a key to the house on the neck. And I was, this was before, this had to be, it had to be like 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade. I took the train to school every day by myself.
How old were you?
I don't know. How old is the 6th grader? My kids are in the 6th grade. I was like 11.
11, yeah.
11, yeah.
Yeah. 11.
Well,
It's doable. It's doable.
It's doable. Now, I'm not letting my kids get on the bus. Take them.
I came when I was 7
not
stand.
in today's era. You know, the dynamic has really changed
what
in
happened
terms of how it is that we find ourselves reflecting upon what we did as youths versus what it is that we would consider a whole lot more dangerous or challenging in terms of the dynamics and standards as well as expectations of strangers who may not have that community respect type of standard and engagement, because you know you have individuals with mental illness, you've got individuals that are walking human volcanoes, you've got all kinds of individuals that you don't know that comprise your neighborhood, as well as individuals that come from outside of your neighborhood that at any point in time could be a part of your child's journey if you were to let them go from home to school nowadays. So there's too many human variables that may not have an understanding of boundaries where they're respecting individuals and particularly youth. It's a dicey world that we live in. It's almost like a no holds barred type thing. I look at it based on my exposure to my brother Nate's WWF, when it was WWF, now WWE, Royal Rumble, where everybody gets in the ring and the last person standing is going to hold up the belt type thing, where, you know, nowadays you just don't know who your neighbors are most times, and you know how it is that they have established standards and expectations and boundary lines. And it's a dynamic that we need to really tap into to the best of our ability, going back to what we stated earlier, having a get to know your neighbors day.
Yeah. Well, you know, things were clearly different then than they are now.
You know, Stan, in Hartford, we've had some incredible men get involved in our children's safety. I remember back when I was still with the Board of Ed, with Pastor James Lane,
I remember him very
Brother Carl,
Mm-hmm.
Brother Carl Hardrick,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Brother Francis Davila, and others, and they started walking our children to school because on Albany Avenue, parents complained that the girls at Fox Middle were being harassed by men when they were walking in certain spots. So the men started posting on the corners
Mm-hmm.
where the complaints were coming from, and they had the yellow jackets,
The men of color.
the men of color,
Mm-hmm.
and they were staying out there to make sure that no kind of foolishness or chicanery was taking place with our children. And now there's another organization that's also doing some incredible work with our youth, and that's an organization that's headed by Brother Fred Phillips and
Mm-hmm.
George Davis and other notables, men standing up against violence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another. So we've had in Hartford, we've had community members who have taken the initiative to make sure that our children are safe. And with that, I want to give them a shout out, and I want to give them a salute, because those are initiatives that can be, had in any one of our communities across the country, because it was initiated by community members. And then when the thing settled down, the first one, when things settled down, the men of color kind of backed off. You know what I'm saying? So when there's a need, there's always been, and it goes right back to what you were saying earlier, Dr. Mike. No man is an island. The community has come together and have done some wonderful, some marvelous things to get things right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
people rise to
we
the
need
occasion.
that.
Absolutely. And that's what I keep saying, and Stan, every week I say the same thing. In our community, we have magnificent leaders that are not leaders in, I guess, in the normal sense, whatever that means. They're not elected officials. They don't lead an organization. But when they speak, people listen, because they speak with a lot of, they have a lot of knowledge and information.
I think it does us a detriment to think that the only leaders are elected people.
I
They're
think
not.
we have to change that definition.
But I don't think you have to change the definition. I think people need to understand what leadership is. Elected people are only leaders in the sense that they are political leaders at the state legislature, at your city council, or at the federal level. That doesn't mean they lead in all things. There's leaders in every segment of our society,
Absolutely.
up and down the line and throughout. So
Exactly.
I think we as a community and as people see to them a role that they do not have. They are first and foremost representatives
Well, Stan,
of the community, of leaders. They do not speak for everybody.
Well, I think that when I say change the definition, I'm not sure if that's the right way to present it. What I mean is that, for example, for me, in the schools, we should be giving our honor and our high honor students awards and banquets, but we don't do that. We give it to the athletes. I think we should be giving the athletes like a dinner or something, because I learned when I worked with kids, I used to give trophies at first, right?
Mhm.
But then the first and second place team gets a trophy, and then the other 6 or however many teams are left get nothing. So I got away from that, and at the end of the season, I started doing a banquet and invited everybody. Everybody eats, everybody shares. We plan for the next one, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. So in terms, we give too much importance to people like the president, the elected people. We give them too much. What I mean by change the definitions, we have to take some of that form and a place to present their ideas and maybe even carry some of the ideas out.
Well, I think I understand the spirit in which you're making the comment. I think there are people who give. Perhaps there are people who lift these folk up higher than maybe they should be. But I would not default to we give the president. I don't think people even know the name of the president of Travelers. I don't think we by default give those individuals too much credit. I think that we don't understand the roles and responsibilities that certain people in the community have. And there's no reason for people to just know them. You know, if you don't explain, if people aren't actively seen doing certain things, people are not going to by default know that. So I think that, you know, your elected leaders, those people work for you. You are the government, not them. You're the government.
Are you putting like some type of cap on what people should know and what they should not know?
No.
I'm just wondering what that.
No.
What
You said well. I don't know the name of the president of Travelers. I don't know whether it's a male, a female. I don't know who that person is.
Do you think the mayor knows the name of the president of Travelers?
I hope he knows.
Okay, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but
so although the community may not give him importance, the community gives the mayor importance, right?
That's true. But
the mayor gives
we're not
the
getting into a
president of
debate.
Travelers
You
importance.
said we. I don't consider the mayor part of any we scenario. So he ain't we in my book, but that's me. When I say we and when I say community, I'm not thinking about the mayor. He's the last person I'm thinking about when I talk about community. Now, he better know the name of the Travelers president. He's the mayor. You would expect him to know. That's his job. He works for us. It's not his job to look out for us. It's our job to tell him what we want and need.
No, it just seems like you felt like you made me feel like you were putting a cap on what people should know. Like
no,
like an expectation.
No, you interpret what I said to be that. There's a big difference there.
That's what I said.
I don't know who that person is. Now, I would guarantee. I'm almost willing to guarantee if we took a poll, we will start walking down the street in Hartford, downtown at lunchtime, for the outside of Hartforders and the people in Hartford. If they started asking who is the president of Travelers, very few people will know the answer to that. Not because there's a cap on their information or knowledge level, but because they don't really care. It's not a big thing on their list because those people aren't leaders in their community. We're talking about leaders in the community, not putting caps artificial on our people. I don't do that, Lou. So you don't need to think that when I talk that way, that's what I am inferring. I never infer. I speak directly to what I intend to say so that people don't misunderstand me. So we have leaders
I'm not part of the people.
We have leaders throughout the community.
Stan, I'm not part of the people.
What do you
and
mean?
Listen, Lou, you part of the people, but this is what I want to bring to the table. We should be able to celebrate those leaders of our community. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is how it is that we can best utilize.
Which ones are you talking? What leaders are you talking about? The ones that I'm talking about, or the ones that
you haven't mentioned any leaders.
Hold on. There's plenty to be spoken of. And as a matter of fact, if we wanted to engage the community, we could have them nominated. But from the perspective of celebrating them, having them on the I-91, I-84 in terms of the electronic billboards to display them, even in the neighborhoods, big placards or posters or advertisement type acknowledgement, create a mural. There's ways that we can actually engage the community to have our current community leaders acknowledge. And so in celebration of what it is that they do, to let them know that we see them. There's something that we can engage individuals and thinking about in terms of having more support and more acknowledgement of individuals in the community that are seen as leaders but may not be known about, right? So we've got those that now we have leaders that want to be known, and we have those that don't necessarily want to be known by the masses. But to their credit, they are doing the work, and they're doing the work together based on the resources that they currently have. And so the question now becomes, how do we bridge the gap of making sure that individuals know about the types of activities and resources that they provide in order for individuals in the community that may need their assistance can, get in contact with them and get the type of assistance that they need. That's a whole nother question, right? So there's a lot of things that are ongoing that needs to become, I guess, more known about. But again, with all the nonprofits, non-affiliated, or NGOs that we have in Hartford, we don't even need, as Eddie Perez has been known to state, another nonprofit organization. We've got all of them that we actually need. The question becomes, how do they begin to work together in order to bridge the gaps of assistance that may be needed to begin to heal the community. And I put a focus in on the youth, particularly because it's easier to build young people than it is to fix broken adults.
That is true. I think that we have lots of leaders in our community. Lots of leaders, most of whom are not known. I have lots of friends. I know lots of people who run nonprofit agencies. I don't consider them leaders. I consider them people who run a nonprofit. To me, the leaders in our community that are really, really true leaders, they're not looking around. They're not walking around looking for awards and accolades. They do what they do out of a pure heart because that's who they are and what they do. They're not trying to be noticed. They just lead. They provide leadership. That's what leaders are. Leaders aren't elected officials. They are not.
I want
elected
you and
officials.
Dr. Mya to name 5 leaders and five people in Hartford you consider leaders that are not elected, that don't lead nonprofits, and are not bureaucrats. You're on the clock, Stan.
Oh my goodness.
I'm waiting, Stan.
Lou,
Kamara.
you always.
He always does this, Yeah, I'm going to indulge him today.
Yes.
All right. Calvin Lovejoy.
Kelvin.
Right.
Yes.
Fred
Vicky
Phillips.
Fennell. Vicky Fennell.
Vicky.
Yeah.
That's one for you there, Miss Doctor.
Yeah,
Dr.
Vicky.
Mya. I think you got, how many you got, Stan? 2?
I had 4.
How you get 4?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people on my phone are leaders in the community.
You ain't named 5 yet, though.
Lou, I don't have to name. First of all, it's very rare that I even indulge such silliness. That I should answer and give you an answer is supreme. That's only because I like you, Lou.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right.
Appreciate the love, man.
Because I don't answer
No,
the
because
questions
there's a
simply
lot of
because-
people listening, Stan. And they
Right,
need
Lou,
to
but-
know these names.
Lou, they don't need to know these names. That's my whole point. They don't need to know these names. These people aren't validated because someone knows them. When you need accolades, when you need to be validated by some outside entity to acknowledge your leadership, you have failed my leadership test.
That's not what I'm talking about, though. I don't think that people that are doing that actually even think about stuff like that, right? I'm talking
Right,
about
they're just
other
doing what they
people-
do. The ruffins. I mean, I could go on and on with people in the community who do things They never get awards. People don't never shine the spotlight on them, and that's not why they're doing it.
And I agree, brother. But I'm just saying. I'm saying that the reason that I'm asking these questions of you, okay, is because members of our community and other people that are doing similar things may not know. Like if you're doing something and Dr. Mya is doing something and it's similar, and y'all don't know that y'all doing the same thing, maybe you can help each other, or you can be a resource to her. Or that's what I'm trying to put. I'm trying to bring them. You know what I'm saying?
I have a weird theory.
Yes.
I have a weird theory. My theory is this. There's so much work that needs to be done that if 10 people or 1 people do it, it still ain't enough.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're doing something, you're helping the people that you can help. You can't help 20 people at a time. You can only help 1 person at a time.
Yes.
And the people who need your help, Lou, find you.
Yes.
The people who know you,
talk about me.
Talk about you.
Yes.
Spheres of influence.
If 100 people came, they had to stand in a line to get your help. You do very unique one-on-one intervention for people who otherwise would fall in between the cracks in despair, and you give them life, hope, and an opportunity for someone to stand with them. Now, what you do is unique. It cannot be duplicated. I know people may think that it can, but it can't be.
It can't be monetized then.
And you could monetize it. That's up to you. But you do what you do out of a pure heart. Now, you can only do so much work. You can only do so much work. But the people that need you, the ancestors, the good Lord, the powers that be, the universe, universal law, whatever you want to pull up out there, will lead them to you. And you will help them. But you can only help so many people at a time.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by leaders. They're all over the place. People rise to the challenge. So if one person goes and does that one thing, they're operating as a leader. That's what leaders do. They lead and they provide. We don't have to put in a catalog all the things that people do and have a resource center where folk can tap into what you do. That's when you begin the monetization. That's when you get now we need the funding. Well, the funding needs the bureaucracy. Well, if I don't get the funding, I can't help somebody. I think that if we just as a community grow, then we know who's in the community. We have friends that we can, refer people to.
Yes.
And they're personal referrals. There are people who you don't know. But if I refer them to you because I referred them to you, you will help them. Likewise. Absolutely. I don't know if you called. We had a person on the phone on the show here. I don't know them from Adam.
Yes.
If they'd have called me, I might have given them some ear. Would I have gone out my way? I don't know. I don't know them. I have to vet them or whether they act. But you, Len, that's all I need to know. Lou sent you. All right, what can I do for you?
Thank you, brother.
That's how referrals work.
And that's black and brown support.
Because we happen to be black or brown. But if you was a white person,
I'm just saying,
cursed with white skin.
I agree. I agree with that. But I'm just saying we need more of that. I always talk about
absolutely.
We need more of that, Stan. More of that.
I think that comes when we know people. That's why when you know someone, personal referrals work because you know the person.
Absolutely, yes.
I want to throw something out. So we're talking about leadership and how it is that leadership, pivots into providing assistance for the
we lost Dr. Mya.
Resources. What becomes of us when it is that we want to individuals that
for some reason.
Oh, okay. Hold on for a second. Let me see here.
I think it's on my end.
Is this better?
I think it's on my end. My internet. I think my internet connections. We're having some issues with the internet. I think they're working on something. This was
Okay.
Stand in,
Yeah.
pay the bill. He don't want us to know.
He
I-
paid the bill. We're on live. It's just the
We're on,
intermittence.
but it's cutting in and out. The transmission's
Right.
cutting in and out. I've been watching that. That's what's it's been. I don't know what's going on.
It's only a
He-
contraption.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
me
can hear
better
you now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I was thinking about in regards to leadership being able to provide assistance
Mm-hmm.
at the point where leadership is assisting an individual that has requested assistance, but they don't want to put in the work that's required by them to get to that next stage. How do we actually negotiate that? And does that become something that individuals who are requesting assistance need to know in terms of their role and responsibility to get to the next level? Because as a leader, you can only do so much, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So if the person is requesting assistance, but they won't do their part in terms of making things come about in terms of outcomes, how do we get individuals or requesting assistance know that they have a role in this as well?
I think for me, Dr. Maya, the first thing that I would analyze for myself is whether the individual understands their role or not. You know what I'm saying? And then because what happens is, and I learned this from a brother named Sheldon Neal, right? Sheldon was a principal that I worked under and with together in the school system. And so he said to me, he said, Mr. Delgado, there's very few people that can do this job completely. And he was talking about the principal's job, and I said, what do you mean? You do a great job. And he says, well, I do okay, but what I mean is we have some principals that are great administrators. And then we have some principals that are great principals, like they're great educators, but they don't know how to they can teach the subject matter all day. They know curriculum upside down, but they don't know how to deal with personnel issues. They don't know how to deal with discipline issues. They fall apart completely unhinged when something like that is presented to them. So for me, I have that knowledge that, there are many levels of a job. It's not just one thing that you have to be good at or know how to do. There's many things that come with jobs. So also knowing the skill set of an individual kind of allows me to assess whether they have the capacity to do this job now, or do they have the capacity to learn to do this job. So these are all questions, but you got to have knowledge like that, in order to really make a good assessment.
Yeah.
Right. But when members of a community come to you for assistance, there's a way to assess how much they're willing to put in. And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier in terms of having an understanding of whether or not they understand their role in it. So if I request assistance from you, Lou, the question becomes, do I understand what my role will be in playing a part of getting to the outcome that I'm seeking, right? So somebody can come to you with an issue, but then do they know what the outcome they're seeking, and do they know what their role is to getting to that outcome, and can they communicate to you how it is that they need your assistance?
I call that knowing your end game for me. Knowing your end game. Like when I went to New Britain, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to either get fired or I'm going to leave, but that's the end game. But there's some things that I have to accomplish by the time the end game comes. You know what I'm saying? So, and also, Dr. Maya, for me, is also knowing, am I capable of offering the help that you're asking for? Do I have the knowledge, the skill set, the resources, the know-how? So, that's also important, because sometimes we go to people and ask them for help about something that they know less about than we do.
Right.
So all these things are important for us to keep in mind. I don't look at things from a corporate point of view. I always look at things from a community point of view. And how is this going to help or hurt my community? Who's going to gain in the short, middle, and long run, long term? Who's going to gain?
Now, I have a question about your question, because I'm hearing your question. The person that needs the help,
Right.
do they know what their role is?
Yes.
Okay,
And,
so
and are they willing? Are they willing to put in the work? Is what Dr. Mya asked earlier.
Right. So that's
Right.
okay. So, it would seem to me that Lou or anybody, me, whatever the case is, if someone's coming to you for help, it's almost like a client coming that wants to do a video project. They know nothing about production. Well, it's my role to help them figure out what it is they want. I mean, if the person knows they need help, they may not know anything other than that. They're asking for help. So the person they're asking the help for has to play a role in determining, what they need.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely. So it's assessment all around.
yeah. So and you can't help everybody.
You can't.
And
And then
we have
so
to be
you
careful
hand them
with
off.
that. Be careful
No,
with that.
You can't help.
Be careful with that.
I
bro.
am being careful. You can't help everybody, but you can point them to someone who can. You have to know what you can't do, because now you're harming the person instead of helping them. You're hindering them. One, you're taking time out of the objective, floundering on something that you're incapable of doing. If I'm incompetent, I'm incompetent. That means
you're
I can't.
incompetent in that particular thing.
Right, so I can't help them. That doesn't mean that they can't be helped.
And that's and so here's the thing also, Stan. We have to be careful with repeating things, because remember what I said earlier in a couple in other shows. I said this, right? When I go to my therapist, I get on my elbows before she touches me, and I close my eyes and I say, please accept these wonderful blessings that are going to be bestowed upon you. So in life, it's not that we can't help anybody. It's that in life, people are not prepared to receive that help for whatever the reason. At that moment, they're not prepared. You can help anybody if they're prepared.
I would respectfully disagree, because I think that people need to know their limitations. I cannot help you. I can't help myself get the tire off my back car. Henry Brown had to help me, because I lack the physical capacity and the strength to break the lug nuts loose.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not an uncommon thing.
But so I can't help someone do that. So let me get you someone who can. Let me introduce you to Henry Brown.
Let me ask you a question.
So all I'm saying, without getting all into a sidebar conversation, is everyone has limitations, and the limitation is not on the person asking for the help. The limitation in my scenario is on the provider. I am the provider. If you come into me to have me proofread your essay, I am not the one.
Okay.
I need people to proofread basic sentences. There's a prohibition on me putting stuff to print, because it is guaranteed that if I don't have someone look at it, something's going to be misspelled. So my spelling isn't that great. So I would never say, well, you're not receiving the gift of my help. No, Stan, I need to get someone who can spell. Maybe you can help me do something else.
But Stan,
but this is not one of them.
Don't forget what I said to Dr. Mya earlier, that I have to analyze whether I'm capable of offering the help that's being asked.
That's
right?
all I said.
Right.
But what I mean, saying the same exact thing.
Right, Lou. I mean,
but there's another question. There's another question, because when you're talking about this, right? The question is, well, for me, everything comes from. I'm just going to say this: that everything comes from a community perspective for me. So I don't know how to think any other way. So that's the way that I've educated myself.
There's nothing wrong with your thinking. Nothing wrong with that. If that's how you roll, then that's how we roll. There's nothing wrong with that. I think for the sake of the community, it is important for the community to understand and know that not everyone is capable of providing the help you need. So it is more advantageous for the whole community and singular individuals within the community to get qualified individuals to render the aid and service that they need.
And we have a lot of that going on, and I'm going to give the audience and the listeners of you guys an example. I'm not going to name anybody because, anyway, I put my son in an after-school program because they said they offered tutoring, and there was no tutoring. And we have a lot of that going on. First of all, there was no tutoring because they didn't have anyone there on their staff that was capable of tutoring. So we have a lot of that. We have a lot of that false advertising. People, a lot of our people go somewhere for a service and they get something else. They have to accept something else. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we have a lot of that going on.
And that's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. And the reason why I brought that up is because I think that sometimes individuals seeking assistance may not want the type of outcome that they're seeking as badly as you may if you're able to assist them, right? So at some point in time, right, if it is that you want the outcome to come about more than what they want to contribute to getting towards that outcome, I think sometimes that becomes an issue as well, right? So for example, if
it's
it
like
is
a
that
bad mama syndrome.
What's that called?
A bad mama syndrome.
I never heard about that, but I know that there are individuals that, for example, as an instructor, I want my students to be successful, which means that they have to meet deadlines and they have to perfect time management in terms of making sure that they're able to meet those deadlines. But outside of the classroom, there's nothing I can do to let them or assist them in meeting that goal from the perspective that I provide them with some strategies, right? So I provide you with the strategies, but it's you who is responsible for implementing said strategies. So if you don't implement the strategies, you can't get the outcome, right? And so a lot of times I see that individuals will be given resources and or strategies, but they don't put the work in by implementing said strategies and resources to get the outcome that they stated that they're seeking.
That's so true, Dr. Mya. I have seen that kind of phenomenon take place. Mm-hmm. I have seen people that have asked for help, and when you let them know what they need to do in order for it to happen and what you can do, but what they have to do, they completely fail to follow through with with their part of their responsibility. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't really want help. So my golden rule is this: everybody wants to sit in a lawn chair, old school aluminum with the straps. That's a real lawn chair.
I remember them.
I'm gonna order me one. I'm gonna order me.
They get too hot. You gotta watch it.
Right. So, particularly if it's black, because you burn yourself. But nonetheless, if you and they want you to push them up the hill in this aluminum lawn chair while they sit down and lounge.
Wow.
My view is this: I will help you carry it 1 foot. You carry it another foot. I'll carry it another foot. So to the degree that I can, I will help anybody if they're willing to take the first step. I will follow them step for step. But you got to be willing to put something in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you just become a resource. Mm-hmm. You become a utility. They will exploit and use you as a utility because you're there.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, people, that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a resource. And then it becomes up to the giver or the person adding that resource to be very wise as to how they use it. Because if you're offline, then you can't help someone else.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
So the person providing the aid has to be wise in doing what they do,
Mhm.
or else you wind up being.
Yeah. Well, I want to add this to the conversation. First of all, the comment that Dr. Mya made earlier is attributed to Frederick Douglass when he said that it is easier to educate boys than to fix broken men. So there's another quote that's slipping my mind right now, but it has to do with the way that we educate our children, our youth. And I think that we have to do we have to look at the things that our kids are learning in school, man. That that's going to make them be useful adults out here.
So to kind of piggyback off of that, Lou, really and truly, whatever it is that they learn in school is one aspect, but the real learning is in the home. If it is that individuals have that as a priority or value, teaching their children specifics, right? Because the school system in and of itself is going to do what it's going to do. And there's very little input in certain school systems by parents on what the curriculum actually is, sadly. And, it's just the way it is. However, where parents and guardians have the most impact is what it is that they teach their children in terms of life skills, right? And so, with that in consideration, each and every household is different, right? So, what you teach in your household to your children is going to prepare them, but another household could be on a whole different wavelength on what they're teaching, if they're teaching, in terms of life skills, so that they prepare to transition their children prepare to transition into adulthood. So there's a lot of variety with that as well. So there's so many variables that we have to consider that are out there, which is why I view life as a moving algebraic equation.
So let me just I remember the quote because it ties into your original statement, Dr. Mya. No man is an island. And this is a quote by one of my favorite and one of my personal heroes, Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
He says, service to others is the rent that you pay while you're here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So sharing, working together, helping people, all these things go hand in hand. That's universal law. That's not man-made law. That's why we don't understand it. We keep trying to make man-made law, right, over universal law, and that's when we run into problems. You know what I mean? So yeah, all those things, and what we teach our children, we should be teaching them that. We should be teaching them things like that. The service to others is important. Knowing your skill set and your limitations is important. You know what I'm saying? Because it allows you to quickly assess situations in terms of what you're able to provide, at that moment and in short and long term. So absolutely.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, do. Unfortunately, again, with every household having their own priorities, standards, and values, it does not happen that way. And so when it is that this is not the overall standard in each and every household, there's going to be a variety of different types of outcomes that happen when it is that our youth transition into adulthood based on their household and who it is that they've been exposed to and what type of values and standards that they actually have embraced.
Absolutely, man. I used to tell people all the time, well, everybody wasn't raised in the same house. So you're absolutely right, Dr. Maya. We all learn different values. It could be different religion, different rituals, all kinds of different stuff. But there are some basic standards that we all have when we leave our house that we all have to kind of adhere to in order to coexist.
That would be beautiful. And if it's shared even in our school systems, that would actually tie in the family and community school dynamic perfectly.
Well, we can't have community school. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Maya, for interrupting you.
So from the perspective that if it was a decision, a conscientious decision to tie in and identify standards that family as well as community schools could actually,
reinforce,
actually infuse and reinforce, right, throughout the day, because the schools have the children a very long amount of time. 6 hours times 5 days, that's like 30 hours. That's like a part-time job. It'd be nice if kids could get paid, but I digress.
Hey, if we stop sending money to other countries and give it to our families, maybe we could do that.
Absolutely.
That's possible.
So here's a little devil's advocate to the conversation. We can't have community schools, Dr. Maya, when they lock down at 3:00. They lock the community out.
That's a whole nother subject. Yes.
And to the degree that there are a lot of things a lot of people don't want their kids learning and being taught. So
this is true.
This is true. What is the community standard?
That's what I'm.
And
that's
who
what
gets
I'm driving at.
Who gets to determine what that community standard is? I think, as we were talking in the beginning of the program, the community is. We need to better know our neighbors. We are the community. We don't know one another.
That's such an interesting point, Stan, that you make.
If we don't know one another, then how can we have an expectation of how to behave? Because we don't even know what that person likes, what they respect. When you engage with people, you get to know their likes, their dislikes, the things that piss them off, the things that make them happy. And then you build that community standard and the expectations. Here come the old man. Yo, step to the side, man. Respect the dude. How you doing, Mr. So-and-so? I'm doing fine, young man. All right, he's okay, old dude. He a little loopy from time to time. Yeah. Don't get on his lawn, But these things. And then when someone is picking on the old guy,
you can come out.
Someone says, "Hey, leave him alone, man."
Right, exactly.
He gave Tommy lunch money last week. I mean, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's all deteriorating, and so we have all these people that are isolated. They're islands. I think the pandemic did a grave disservice with all this isolation. It pulled people inside, made all these people, stay together apart. All this stupid stuff that people are saying, alone together, moment of calm, all this stupid stuff.
That's
when they're
moronic.
Where they're twisting folk thinking capacity. You're no longer with your neighbors. It's important for people to come together.
Well, the thing that I would add to this is that I knew my neighbors before the pandemic. And so I have a good relationship with them. There's an older couple that lives not directly across from me, but 2 houses. And I send my son every time it snows, I send my son over there, to do their snow. And I knock on the door a couple times a year and I say, I'm across the street if you need something. And I'll give them a business card or something with my phone on it. My mother taught me early in life that it is great and very important for you to have a cordial and friendly relationship with your neighbors, but you should not be too much in their house and they not be too much in yours. because that in the long run is going to cause some problems.
Right.
You know
Boundaries.
I think
there's
boundaries and respect and
boundaries.
you know.
Boundaries.
I knock on their door. I've knocked on all my neighbors' doors.
I was gonna say I'd venture to say that Lou knows all.
I know all of my neighbors.
His neighbors. But Lou lives in a very interesting neighborhood. It's one of the few neighborhoods in Hartford that most of the people over there know one another. They live in a little quiet corner. And that's very tight community over there.
Well, I know
very tight
the
community.
people on my street from the top to the bottom on both sides. I know them all, and I have a cordial. I say hello to all of them. I make sure I use their name. That's another thing that I would submit to the audience and to our parents, especially with children. When an individual doesn't use your name, and they know who you are, they know your name, and they don't use it, it is extremely disrespectful, and they are denying you your identity and your humanity. So please remember that, because I've had these things happen a lot in these meetings with school personnel. That's one of the tools that they use to try to make you feel less of a human being. But we know about that trick. We know that trick. So I'm sharing that trick with the audience. You know, I'm here to share information.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, absolutely.
They call you. So what's your name again?
No, or they'll say, well, he said, and I'm like, well, he has a name.
In the third person. I'm sitting here.
He has a name. But when they're talking about somebody that I'm with, I'm like, well, he has a name. His name is Stan McCauley. Can you say that? Because if you say it a couple times, it'll help you to remember it.
See, Lou's the guy you want with you when you go to school.
Well, because I'm not playing games. Them days are over. All that's over now. We're going to walk in intelligence in every single step. And I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to Brother Henry Brown. Brother, thank you so much for what you do. And all the moms that are with you, supporting you, sisters and brothers, I salute you. Fred Phillips and George Davis, brothers, keep doing the great work that you're doing, man. We are honored to have you in our community, and we hope that you stay, man. And to all the other great people in our community that are doing the great work, thank you so much. For our young people that are learning to build early in life and not destroy our communities, I take my hat off to you. Thank you so much. And to all our families, man, that are out there struggling, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I promise you. Everybody have a great day. Wonderful day. Dr. Mya, it is so nice to be here with you. You are the bomb, girl. You are the bomb. Look at you,
Likewise,
man.
Lou. Likewise.
Listen to me. You should be doing toothpaste commercials with that great smile, girl. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, you're welcome. It's great, man. Your knowledge is wonderful. You bring a wonderful piece to the show, man. I hope that we continue to collaborate.
Yes.
And continue to educate our community and just do great things, man.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you.
You're welcome, sister.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I exalt you and stand for the great work that you do.
He's good to have around.
Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Dr. Bowen, we'll see you next time. All right.
Have a great one, everyone.
All right, you have a great rest of your day.
Peace.
And
Peace.
Lou, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Stan.
And all you folk out there, have a great rest of your day.
Yes,
all right?
yes, family. Peace.
What does he say here? He says, stop sending money to other countries. Indeed.
Yes.
That's your buddy Ricardo.
Oh yeah, we want him on the show next week.
Yeah, I talked to him.
Yeah, he'd be great to have on.
Yeah. I think he's gonna come on. He's line up some stuff.
Okay, good,
first,
man.
It'd
be great, man.
All right, my friend.
Hold on, one more thing, Stan. To brother Chris Dukes, brother, don't ever give up.
Oh,
because you have supporters here, man. We gonna keep your case alive right here on this show. We're gonna let people know that Colangelo and all these other criminals are going down. So yes, brother, we're not gonna forget.
There we go. All right. We will see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Peace, y'all. Have a great day.
McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be, but let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable project and share it with the world on my social media television